I just took my hair down and it's full of sweat and secrets. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. It is day 2 of the Warrior Evolution, 7 days to food freedom. So today we are talking all about the biological reasons why we binge. So that implies right off the bat, guys, that this is not a lack of willpower problem. This is not a motivation problem. This is not a problem at all. Actually, this is just what the brain does. It's an evolutionary excess thing that the brain is doing to keep us alive. So I know that sounds like really simplistic, so I'm going to break that down for us. So I want to just start right off the bat and say the brain's job, like the brain's 3 primary things it cares about are, number 1, to seek pleasure. The brain actually wants to feel pleasure whenever it can. So, and I know, listen, I've struggled with depression and anxiety personally, and when you're struggling, it certainly does not feel like the brain's trying to seek pleasure. It seems like it's trying to do the exact opposite. I understand, but just hear me out. So the brain's reward system lights up, bing, in the center of the brain every time there's a pleasurable act, whether that's sex or eating or doing something that you love to do or spending money or let's see what else. We can even go into the addiction territory here, right? Like with narcotics and things which artificially light up the reward center. But we experience that when we exercise, when we go out in nature, when we do something that gives us pleasure, okay? The second thing, stay with me, the second thing the brain is committed to doing for us is avoiding pain. So these are not doing things that the brain, your brain, because everyone's brain is relative, considers hard. We might have some things that overlap, like, exercise is hard, right? We don't usually want to get up and exercise because it's a form of stress, it's a form of pain, and the brain's like, nope, we're good here. Okay, what are some other things that you don't really like to do? Adulting, getting up and going to work maybe, doing chores around the house, just doing a project that you're sort of obligated to do, doing something challenging, anything challenging that could be like having to face a hard conversation and you avoid it like the plague. Okay, no, we're not supposed to say that term anymore because whatever, but you know what I mean. Like you have that hard conversation that you're like, okay, I really need to have this hard conversation, and you're avoiding it, you're resisting it because the brain wants to avoid pain. Saying no to something pleasurable in and of itself is a little bit of an emotional pain. So it's challenging you and it eventually becomes a habit. The thing that I can think of for me the most when I was struggling with binge eating is I would use food to avoid pain or discomfort or an emotion that I felt was uncomfortable, really whenever I could. So whether that was just like procrastinating, not wanting to do something, face something, sometimes just the pain of getting up and doing the day felt like enough. What else? Discomforting emotions like feeling just irritable or sad, tired, things like that. That was my personal experience with using food to just disconnect and numb out. The third thing that the brain is committed to doing, is making life as easy as possible in the moment. So the brain is wired to keep us safe, to keep us surviving ultimately. And so doing things that keep you stuck, that you really don't want to be doing, actually is a really like weird and twisted way of the brain keeping you safe and making things easy. So I'm just going to play this argument right out and say that binge eating is taking the instant gratification way of making life easy because we're usually avoiding this feeling that is going to be uncomfortable or discomforting, or this emotion that we don't really feel like we have the capability to handle. This day at work, this situation, this like just everyday life crap that is just literally is hitting the fan every day, it feels like. So that is an example of what a coping mechanism is. And sometimes it actually serves us, guys. Sometimes these coping mechanisms we have are a way that is all we know right now to keep us alive. And that's legit. That is legit. It's just when you realize, okay, this is actually not serving me. This is not serving the person that I dream of becoming, that I want to be and show up in the world every day, that you may look at that habit, coping mechanism habit, and say, I want to drop this. This is not something that's working for me anymore. It's actually hurting me more than it's helping me now. So how do I unlearn this? How do I stop doing this? And if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that that's at the point you're at now. So where do binge urges come from? So actually, there is a biological reason that we experience binge urges. Binge urges are that desire, that almost like automatic impulse that we feel where all of a sudden we're like, I gotta have food. Like, I just need to have it. I just need to have it in large quantities. I just want to sit and eat. I used to describe this switch into having a binge urge as like my Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. If you get that reference, definitely let me know. But it would feel like I was going along. My best self was like, okay, we're going to do our best today. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm going to eat, solid, nutritious foods. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to do all the self-care things. And then somewhere down the road during the day, all of a sudden, like, I just was not that person, and I switched into the Mr. Hyde, which was just like, I just need food, like, must have food, like, don't want to do anything, cancel all the plans, stay home, isolate, sit on the couch, watch TV, eat all the snacks, go to sleep, don't talk to anybody. Like, that's honestly what it felt, and I could not stop it. It was like this runaway train situation with no conductor on board anymore, and it was just going until it stopped. So that stop was usually when, like, I would wake up from that binge urge and I would just be, or that binge, and I would just be like totally full and bloated and just feeling really, really crappy about myself overall. So where do these binge urges come from? So we actually have, we'll call it like our two brains. So we have this impulse-driven part of our brain, which I'm going to call the primal brain or the lower brain, and that is where binge urges happen. I really like saying this word. So the amygdala is one of the parts of the brain that gets activated in stress mode, and this is what starts the cascade of events that eventually leads to our binge urge. So this lower brain is the animal brain, the primal brain, the instinctual brain. This is where binge urges come from. And it's not, listen to me when I say this, it's not the real you. It's not the you who wants to recover. It's not the you with your dreams and your goals and your desires and your plans and the things that you love to do. These thoughts, these urges, they are not you. Your personality, those things. They are an evolutionary driven impulse that the brain puts out to do one thing, to keep us alive. If you've ever experienced a binge urge, sometimes you'll feel like, if I don't get rid of this urge, if I don't do something about this, I'm going to die. Like, it's going to be the end of me. That's it. I have to do something, otherwise something is like really bad is going to happen. That's honestly what this binge urge feels like. That's why it's called an urge, right? So it's empowering to know this, because when we know something, we can apply action to it. And we all know, I don't know who said this quote, but applied knowledge is power. So these urges are a part of a primitive system, this evolutionary system that's just designed to keep you safe, to keep you alive. And it can be triggered by so many different things, but a big thing that it does get triggered by, even if it's the first thing or it's just exacerbating it, is calorie restriction. The body and the brain are going to go into survival mode if it thinks we're not getting enough fuel, we're not getting enough energy. So it turns into stress mode, like the body literally turns on the stress response. And a part of that cascade is when you're able to have food, you're going to indulge in a shit ton because the body's like, I don't know when the next time we're going to get food is, so let's just do this now. The other thing is stress, as we know, can be triggered by anything these days. And it doesn't have to be this like big fight or flight thing, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, I almost got hit by a car, like my fight or flight is totally activated, my stress and adrenaline is through the roof. It could just be little things over time. It could just be the state of the world. And as we all know, there's a lot of crap happening in the world today. So we are all operating on some kind of stress mode. Even if it's low grade, it's a chronic thing, which does drive inflammation, you guys. So the brain is getting these little stress signals that's telling it, hey buddy, you better prepare because we don't know what's going to happen. And so the brain just does what it does. It sends out an impulse. Now, if you continue to feel this and go to food, it's going to strengthen that impulse, because not everybody who experiences stress has an impulse to binge. Let's be clear about that. So this urge to binge is kind of like how your brain's like, I don't know, interpreted the best way to help itself stay calm, get some pleasure in the moment, avoid pain, just kind of deal with it in the moment. And it feels like that's the best way to handle it right now. And the more we act on it, the more it becomes an ingrained habit. And once things are a deeply ingrained habit, I mean, we know how hard habits are to break. It's deep, guys. But the thing I want you to take away is that this is not your lack of willpower or your lack of motivation. It's just the way that you're approaching it and the mindset that you're approaching recovery that is really the only thing that is preventing you from getting there. So the other part of the brain I want to discuss really quickly is the higher brain. And this is the part of the brain where your rational self lives, your goals, your identity, who you are, like the loving person that's giving and wants to care about the world and does positive things for herself or himself. This is the higher brain. This is where all that stuff lives. And it gives you the ability to have self-control and actually veto or not act on the impulse. So I will be real with you and say it does allow us to say, no, we're not going to act on you, binge urge. So even though the binge urge may feel so uncomfortable and so disruptive and just may make you feel like, I can't sit here another moment, I have to indulge on this urge, it actually is not the part of the brain that gives the voluntary movement. That's the higher part of our brain. So the higher part of our brain will have to make us get up and actually walk to the kitchen or whatever and actually put the food into our mouth. So it's a two-part thing, but there's good news, because there's like a gap between this lower brain and this higher brain. There's a gap, there's a space, there's a moment. And in that moment is what we are going to do work in. This little bit, and we're going to eventually expand that moment so it doesn't feel like urge act, right? Because sometimes it's like urge, oh my God, I'm so upset I'm having this urge again, I'm such a failure, blah, 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 and then we go and act on it. So there is a moment there that we're going to expand on and find space in, which is going to help us in our recovery. This is where your power lies, guys. This is where it lies. We're also going to work on decreasing the binge urges in general. So we're going to approach it kind of like from a two-path effort. And the last thing I just want to talk about is, if this is something you're experiencing, continue to follow along in the daily videos. We're totally doing an intro to food freedom, and so sign up if you haven't and stay tuned because we're going to get into a lot more. The next video we're going to get into this week, so tomorrow is, hold on, let me pull it up, is what to expect during binge eating recovery. So that is tomorrow's video. If you have questions on what we talked about today, whether it was the binge urges, where they come from, how it's different, higher, lower brain, please comment below, ask me a question. I'm doing Q&As all this week, so I want to make sure I get your question answered. Have an awesome day, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. It is day 2 of the Warrior Evolution, 7 days to food freedom. So today we are talking all about the biological reasons why we binge. So that implies right off the bat, guys, that this is not a lifestyle problem. This is not a motivation problem. This is not a problem at all. Actually, this is just what the brain does. It's an evolutionary excess thing that the brain is. Just took my hair down and it's full of sweat secrets. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. It is day 2 of the Warrior Evolution, 7 days to food freedom. So today we are talking all about the biological reasons why I struggle with depression and anxiety personally, and when you're struggling, it certainly does not feel like the brain's trying to seek pleasure. It seems like it's trying to do the exact opposite. I understand, but just hear me out. So the brain's reward system lights up in the center of the brain every time there's a pleasurable act, whether that's sex or eating or doing something that you love to do, spending money, or let's see what else. We can even go into